TRANSLIT, complete language solutions.
Okay, hello everybody. And everybody is very welcome. So we hope that you will enjoy today's webinar, and we will just start working through our agenda. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass you over to Alex for his presentation.
Well, without further ado, again, you're very welcome. And if you can nod your head, if you can hear me okay on the other side, if there's no delays in audio or video. Well, again, thank you for joining. In case if we run over, just we may stay longer, provided you don't have any other commitments. So if you run over 1 hour, there is no hard deadline from our point of view, and you're more than welcome to stay in if there's more questions coming. For some of you who don't know what TRANSLIT does and you've never dealt with us before, I'll just give a very quick overview of the company. We are based in Ireland. We've been a classical language service provider for 10 years. We've always been focusing on the interpreting. Like many other agencies, we do translation, localization services, but interpreting has been our focus. We have 2 ISO certifications, and as of last November in 2019, we actually launched an interpreting management platform, which is a marketplace and a tool for translators, interpreters, agencies to work together. It has quite many useful features. I'll just run very quickly through them. Interpreting booking, scheduling, calendar sync. It's a CRM system to manage interpreting projects and interpreters, invoicing, profit calculation, messaging system, payouts, and security. So whether you're an interpreter or a language service provider, you're welcome to register. So enough about TRANSLIT. Let's talk of where we are at the moment. And since 21st of March, many companies and countries have actually closed their borders and sent people home. And we as interpreters are actually seeing empty conferences, we're seeing empty streets, and that affected us personally. There is a lot of speculation of what may happen next. I just put this slide to show you that there's many scenarios how good or how bad things can escalate. But as you can see, there is about 9 different projections what could happen in terms of, is it going to be worse or is it going to be better? We're not going to speculate on that today. We would like to focus on the business side of things, and we would like to focus on the opportunistic side of things. So how we as businesses from different industries and sectors are currently affected. And as you can see, I have here 2 columns. On the left, there are the businesses that got impacted more and worse than the ones on the right. So travel and tourism, we're talking about airlines, we're talking about any sort of travel and transportation is currently shut down. We're talking about hotels and leisure industry, which is all closed. Offline retailers and shops are badly affected. Logistics, supply chains, everyone who was involved in that business are also suffering at the moment. All live sports events, conferences that gathered many people are currently closed, which all of you are aware. Construction, manufacturing are also badly hit. And of course, on-site interpreting. We had about 70% of our bookings canceled as the result of the lockdown. But on the other side, we see some industries are actually striving at this time. Telecoms and conference tools, like currently we are using one of them, they are now booming. The online entertainment and gaming are also on the high rise. Netflix and other streaming services, online games are actually seeing over 40% spike in users since February. Online e-commerce has seen a growth by 36% already in the months of March. Home delivery services are also on the rise. Of course, healthcare and pharma, anything to do with medicine, is now also making profits. There is also a trend in people doing online education and training recently. So those platforms and people offering training via anything to do remotely are actually making good money. And remote interpreting, this is something that one of our speakers will be going through today.
are also seeing an increase in sales and businesses. So this is a little graph to show you the recent research that was published in the end of February. It was conducted among language service providers in China because they were the first one on the lockdown, and it was conducted by the Beijing Language and Culture Institute. So they actually already published that anything to do with on-site interpreting was badly hit. And this percentage actually has grown since February. We are seeing now about 70 or 80% of the on-site interpreters closed. But on the other side, there are emerging trends. And as I mentioned, Zoom would be one of the hottest topics at the moment that everyone is talking about. They've seen more users in the recent months than in the whole of 2019. Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts, and many other conference providers are seeing an increase of usage and users. Everyone went online, but probably some of you have seen this guy in the past. That was one of the BBC interviews where a person has kids in the background and he's pushing his child away. We do not recommend you to be this type of person. We have to all probably get a little bit of patience when conducting business interviews and meetings, because all of us are doing it from home at the moment, and we have kids and dogs. What would be the other emerging trend? This is something interesting for you to consider. One of the computer games started offering guided tours inside it. So businesses who have a potentially to add virtual reality to their current operations will probably see an increase. Virtual reality is a really hot topic at the moment. And if your business can accommodate it in any way to incorporate it in your service offering, your websites, you should be considering it. And this is just one example that has launched interestingly. So you can actually go in, you can travel to Egypt, for example, at the moment, but you can get a tour inside a computer game. We couldn't have that a couple of years ago. Now there is an opportunity. Recently, on one of the major events, Samsung announced virtual humans. So they're essentially companions. And this is another trend that we see emerging. Instead of, since of 2 years, we've seen trend in chatbots. And chatbots is essentially artificial intelligence that takes away customer service. But the next generation of chatbot would be actually virtual beings. So when you're going to a website, you could be talking to a person. Again, this is something you could incorporate in your business if it makes sense. So this is what we will see over possibly 2021-2023. This is also one of the recent announcements. In China, the farmers are actually using streaming services to promote their sales. So think again, we're based in Ireland. We have a lot of farmers here, but technology is getting to everyone at the moment, and using anything like Instagram, using any other channels to actually promote their business just by doing video streaming and going live. People are doing it maybe only on individual basis, but businesses are coming to it. And we're going to see more of that. So if you're not streaming, you should be considering it if it's, again, appropriate for your business. E-commerce is probably one of the hottest industries at the moment. There was an increase in 30%, 36%, as I mentioned earlier on. But we see the spike is actually going higher and higher. People cannot go to shops the way they used to, so they are buying more online. And pretty much 87% of users are now online doing shopping. That will be going above 90% in the next couple of months. From our point of view as a language service provider, we see a lot of increases from localization. So businesses are actually looking to translate their websites in multiple languages. They realize that the only way for them to get customers at the moment is through the website. And there is another interesting research to say that more than 65% of users would buy in their own language. So if your website is not in the language of your audience, they're more likely that they're not going to buy from you. So we are seeing actually a 5-time-fold increase in localization requests. People would like to have offering their content into other languages. So if your website is not translated, you should be considering it for 2020 as one of the primary focus. And finally, the trend in the phone and video interpreting. This was popular already in Australia, Canada a couple of years ago. In Europe, it's not that much popular. Hospitals have not integrated the screens and video remote platforms, but since of last year, we've seen that coming finally to Europe. So more and more users are gradually considering trying online interpreting. Now, if you're hosting a conference for your employees or for your clients, and you do not have a multilingual service offering, this is something you could be considering. But we're going to see more of the online and video interpreting finally coming to Europe and becoming, a popular option. My last slide before I'm passing you to another speaker would be talking about the benefits of interpreting, remote interpreting. The number one, of course, is saving time and cost reduction. How does it work? Is that the interpreters do not need to travel. So there is no travel cost involved. There is no need for expensive equipment, which would be normally sound booth, headsets, microphones. Because remote interpreting can be done from any location in the world, it gives businesses access to actually a more choice of interpreters, larger pool, which is 24/7 from any country, which again would be more budget friendly. It's faster and more accessible. An interpreter can join to a meeting within minutes. When there is on-site interpreting, it would require time to travel and access the location. And in current times, safety of employees and customers would be our primary focus. So the message on the right, as you can see, we got it from one of our interpreters who recently attended a Garda station. And he refused to do any further interpreting assignments because the environment there was not safe. There was no equipment provided, there's no health matters. So safety of your staff and of your clients and employees would be of paramount importance. So switching to remote would be something that everyone should consider. So that is all for me. We will take questions at the end of the session, and I would like to pass it back to Svetlana, who will be introducing our next speaker.
Okay, very good. Great. Okay, thanks very much, Alex. And we will move on to the presentation by Paul Carverley from the Pearl Group. And Paul will talk about the technological advances and how we can use technology to promote remote conferencing and remote meetings. And Paul's colleague, Theo Zayutas, will be speaking with him as well. No. Unmute. Sorry, Paul. Unmute. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you. Thanks, Svetlana, for the introduction. And can I also thank TRANSLIT for the invitation to speak at this webinar. Let me just share our presentation here. Hi, everyone. My name is Paul Carverley, and I'm here with my colleague, Theo Zayutas. We're both technical producers at Pearl Group. Just to give you a little background on ourselves, Pearl are a technical production company. We provide all the technology, hardware, and software for events to help bring presenters and delegates together. We're based in Dublin, and we've been in business for over 25 years. We have a dedicated production team who are backed up by logistics, content, and warehouse departments, all within our premises at Park West. Through the years, we've worked with many domestic and international clients where integration with live streaming and translation systems and people have been needed. We also develop content for events and have a sales and installation department. We're the sole Irish member of the AV Alliance, which provides us with access to professional AV support in over 65 countries around the world. We're going to talk to you about an introduction to online remote meetings and conferencing. And some of the topics we'll touch on are communication, collaboration and meeting technology, hybrid events, the shift towards virtual events, live broadcasting and RSI, and how we can support you. I'd like to hand over to Theo first to offer a background on communications, collaboration and meeting technology.
Thanks, Paul. Let's define the terms. Collaboration is the process of two or more people or organizations working together to complete a task or to achieve a goal. Business communication is the process of sharing information between people within or outside a company. The basic types of communications are two. We have the one-way communication that was traditionally provided by newspapers, radio, and TV. Nowadays, that communication has been unified via the web and is breaking all the geographical borders. Also, we have the social media that are multiple broadcast platforms by which an individual or a company can communicate and interact with the audience. A two-way communication was an old school by letter, post, phone, telex, and fax messages, and has been replaced by video calls, emails, text chat, making the communication real-time. The web conferencing and the video conferencing platforms, together with cloud computing and collaboration software, are bringing remote participants together to communicate and collaborate. Online platforms like Skype, Teams, WebEx, Zoom, and many others are integrating with or phasing out expensive hardware video conferencing systems like Polycom or Cisco. Online collaboration in business environment has been assisted by technology long before the COVID-19 outbreak. As the video conference technology is tested and well established, it was introduced in 1968, is already part of the event industry. It's not unusual to have a remote presenter or presenters in a summit. Also, as social media has become an integral part of our life, streaming an event on Facebook, YouTube, or posting the recording to a platform like Vimeo or YouTube is another trend. Also, educational activities is another big topic. E-learning platforms and webinars, like the one that you are attending, are utilizing the web conferencing technology. Paul will go through the events, hybrid and virtual events.
Thanks, Theo. More and more, there's a question as to how to integrate these services when some or all of your participants are remote. This can be done in one of two ways, a hybrid or a virtual event. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about both these options today, along with the introduction of remote simultaneous interpretation to these platforms. A hybrid event is where some of your participants, delegates or presenters, are remote, so not at the venue. For a lot of people, this is new, and it can seem a bit daunting, but for us at Pearl, this is something we've been doing for a long time. Whether it's remote presenters dialing in to give a presentation to your delegates, or broadcasting your event to a mix of in-venue and online delegates. Hybrid events are nothing to be wary of, but they are becoming more prominent in today's world. Given the current health crisis, what we are looking at now is a renaissance in how people engage with events, and there's a ramp up and expansion of online services to facilitate this. Pearl can manage these services by adding some additional live stream equipment and technical crew to the existing AV and lighting services already at the event. Virtual events, now these are a little different. This is when all of your participants, delegates and presenters are remote. In this case, we build a remote studio to manage all the live streams and content from there. This will include all incoming video calls from presenters and the main broadcast to all of your delegates. Other aspects that are managed at the studio would be the event content and any additional streams to social media platforms. One thing to note is that adding virtual elements to your event equates to a need for more production time. We need to get in touch with each presenter in advance of the event to brief and prepare them for the remote delivery of their talk, and we need to discuss and test the technology with them also. There are 4 key parts to remember for these types of events. Presenters, they can be anywhere in the world. The studio, this can be a portable or fixed production suite to manage the stream feeds and content. Part of the production can also be the RSI service. A distribution network. This is the content delivery network that will allow us to broadcast your message to the selected audience. And of course, the audience themselves. Attendees can be anywhere, all over the world, as long as they have a laptop, a Mac, or a smart device. Given the social distancing guidelines and restrictions on travel, we're seeing a shift towards virtual events. We're beginning to receive a growing number of inquiries from clients as to how to pivot from in-person events to these virtual events. We believe even when the restrictions are relaxed, there will still be a number of participants that will not or cannot travel. So there will be a continuing increase in the requirement to provide virtual options for both presenters and delegates. When it comes to live broadcasting and RSI, there are a couple of fundamental questions we need to ask. Who are you trying to reach? The demographic of your audience, their geographic location, and their language. Audience interaction. Do you need your audience to have the ability to ask questions, or do you want to poll the audience in any way? And how do you need to reach them? A simple stream that they can watch and listen to, or simulcast of your event stream to other platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, or your client's own webpage. Our solution consists of a production studio that we can set up in the venue or remotely in the case of a fully virtual event, where we manage all the content that is to be distributed online. By content, I mean the presenters themselves, their corresponding slides and video, any archived video footage you wish to show, or sponsor details, etc. All of this can form part of a scheduled delivery throughout the broadcast. RSI would fall into one of these services to your online event. We can bring the range of interpreted languages from TRANSLIT into that virtual environment to be broadcast along with the live stream. Online delegates would then have the option to choose their language when connecting to the live stream. Depending on the number of languages, how you need to reach your audience, and the type of interaction you wish, if any, your audience to have, we can provide a broadcast medium to facilitate this. So how can we help you go virtual? We can provide a fully managed solution to bridge all of these external services together. We want to let you know that each type of event can be taken online, and we're here to help you find a technical solution to do that. We're currently working with clients on options to run their events virtually. Events such as an education festival, annual general meetings, and virtual screenings of content. And all of these have remote presenters and online delegates. We have had the hardware and the team to provide these services for some time now, and we're in a great position to expand on these services to meet your needs. We can manage the remote presenters, provide them with cheat sheets with information on best practices, and rehearse with them in advance of the show day to have them looking and sounding their best. We can also work with you on the scheduling to ensure that all eventualities are covered ahead of going live. If there's one thing we'd like you to take from this, is that it can be done. We should be happy with where technology is today. The good news is that technology and the people are here to facilitate your events online. Thank you. If I can hand back to Svetlana now to continue on.
Okay. Great. Okay, thank you very much, Paul, and thank you, Theo, for your presentation. So just to move on with the subject specifically of remote simultaneous interpreting, we would like to ask Alex Gusev of Speakers to tell us about his solution about Speakers simultaneous interpreting platform, and do a little demonstration of how it works for us. Thank you, Alex. Now, hold on a second. Just let me see. 1 second, Alex. I just want to unmute. Okay,
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, very good. Thank you.
Great. And you also can see my screen, right? Hello?
Yes, Alex, everything is good. We can see your screen and we can hear you. Thank you.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Alex, and I'm the CEO of a remote simultaneous interpretation solution called Speakers. We are around since 2017, and we've served more like 300 events, all types, all formats, all sizes of audiences all around the world. So basically we have two main use cases. The first one is related to on-site events where you have a venue, a speaker. In that case, our main value proposition that we were replacing the booths, we were replacing the hardware, Bosch, Sennheiser from the stage, and replacing it with just one laptop. So we simply brought a laptop, connected it to the mixing console, and transferred the voice of a speaker to a remote interpreter who will work from a cost-effective location with a nice internet and a professional headset. But now when the whole thing started, actually the only The only use case available is a remote event, and here we have two options. First one is like an online meeting in Zoom, Skype, Hangouts, Microsoft Teams, webinar platform, whatever. So these covers up to, let's say, 1,500, 2,000, 2,000 people. Basically, our interpreter or the interpreter of our partner or our customer connects to this Zoom meeting, let's say a Zoom meeting, and that's how he or she gets the feed, audio and video feed, but their mic in Zoom is constantly muted. So in order to receive interpretation, people download an app to their smartphone. It's available in the App Store and Play Market, and it's called Speakers. Then they just connect their headphones, enter a special code, and listen to the interpretation on top of the original Zoom meeting. So it works like an add-on feature, basically. The second use case is that we can give the link to the interpretation, a browser link, HTTPS, to the AV team of our customer, to the guys who are in charge of the streaming, YouTube streaming, broadcasting, and then they can mix this audio with the original video feed and make your online streaming, your online event, a multilingual one. So basically, the interpretation can be available in several languages, and but basically that's it. I would just like to show you how it actually works. So if you could download the app called Speakers to your smartphones, and then I'll just log in as an interpreter and show you how it all works. How does that sound? Hello, hello.
Okay. Do you want, Alex, do you want all participants to be able to download the app right now, yeah?
Well, at least those who are
is
interested.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Just
So what to do? Let's give a couple of minutes for the audience to download the app. You can continue with the presentation, and in a couple of minutes, we can actually, once the app is installed, we can try to hear you through a different channel.
Sure, no problems. So yeah, basically, like the biggest case we did was for 15,000 something people on an Olympic stadium. We had very like funny case with Google YouTube Gaming Summit last year. They had like 12 top managers, and these top managers wanted interpretation to 8 different languages. So just like imagine how much would it cost them to bring 8 booths and 16 interpreters to Palm Springs for 3 days. And we managed this with like very easily. So yeah, you basically save on interpreters traveling. You save on the tech support. We have 24/7 tech support, so you don't need to worry about it. We'll contact the venue. Whoa, what's that? Webinar attendees. What sector are you in? Right, probably that's not for me. Yeah, so if our customer or partner wants to book his interpreters to the project, we provide training and like monitoring the session so that everybody goes smooth. Basically, that's it. Yeah, so you just download the app to the smartphone. It's called Speakers, Speakus, and then it asks you to enter a 6-digit code, and it is 821846. I'm not sure if I can copy it to this chat. Yeah, I think I can. Chat, yeah. Yeah, exactly. 821846. And now I'm I'm actually like using 2 devices right now. So I'm working from my laptop. I'm connected to this meeting from a laptop and also from my smartphone. So now I'm switching from my laptop to my smartphone and to keep the laptop free for our platform. So just a sec.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
Alex,
great.
yes.
Cool. So I guess like some people have already downloaded the app, and now you can enter the code, and then it will say something like interpreter is online. Please select the language. So let's just for the demo, let's select English channel, and I will go on air in the English channel. So please check if you can hear me. Please send a message to this chat, maybe like, yep, the connection is good. I can hear you loud and clear in English channel. Yeah, it works fine. So great. First replies. The latency from the delay from any point on Earth to any point is 200, 600 milliseconds. So that's basically less than 1 second. And we had like cases when the venue was in Krakow, Poland, and interpreters were sitting from Munich to Tokyo, and everybody was able to hear everything very clearly. We have a relay function. The interpreter's interface is just like a duplicate of the traditional analog interpreter's console, the one they have in the booth. So they can communicate with each other. It's very comfortable and minimalistic, and we provide all the necessary training. So you can switch languages here. And basically, if it would be an actual interpreting, as I said previously, I would mute my microphone here and just listen and see what's happening and do the interpretation to the app. I guess that's it. So, Svetlana, please take the floor. Thanks for your attention, people.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Alex. And I hope this little demonstration of how this app works can help you. And I'm sure if you have more questions, you can always ask TRANSLIT, because we are partners with Speakers. And
oh yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention. Yeah, that we're like mainly a software solution provider. So we prefer to work with LSPs, conference interpreters, in a partnership mode, let's say. So yeah, TRANSLIT is our trusted partner in Ireland. So sorry.
So yeah, no problem. Yeah. So if there are more questions, okay, and if you'd like to find out a bit more about how you can use Speakers for any simultaneous interpreting arrangements, then of course there are different ways of reaching out to ourselves or to Speakers, and we will definitely do our best to answer your questions. Now.
Alex Gusev, there is a question there to actually show a quick demo of the console for interpreters. Is it something you could share for the next few minutes, just to give an actual look of the platform from the inside?
Sorry, I need to just give me a second. I must unmute Alex. Okay, yeah, there,
yeah,
Alex.
So now you see me in a very bad quality, by the way, just a sec. Yeah, so that's how the interpreter's console looks like. It's just like a traditional booth. So you have main control buttons here, on air, changing the languages, mute button. You have an internal chat with hotkeys between the interpreters. If there are several interpreters, they have like video communication, they have audio communication, there's a relay button. And like, as I said, if it was a traditional setup, we would be able to deliver the audio and video feed directly to this interface. So it would look something like this, you know. But since we're working with Zoom and other video conferencing and webinar platforms, in this use case, we're delivering them to different laptops. So interpreters need two devices actually, because video conferencing platforms, they may conflict. They need to share an access to microphone and video cam. Well, that's just the technical stuff. So yeah, that's how it looks like. Nice and minimalistic. You can actually reach Alex Chernenko and like schedule a more detailed demo or even a dry run or something.
Yeah, so just to take on a couple of questions from the audience, we've seen the interpreting console. And there was another question asking to clarify if they could hear either original track on the laptop and listen to interpretation on the phone. That's one of the options to do it, and Speakers would be one of the platforms that allows to work pretty much with any solution. But at the same time, Zoom has their own interpreting capabilities that are built into the Zoom platform. So the audience would have a choice of how they want to do it. The solution is that there are many technical ways how to do it quite easily. And depending on what source you're using, how you're streaming the source content from which locations, you may need to adapt it accordingly. But the interpreters can take any source of video and just give you back the audio stream that you can listen on the app. So it's completely capable with any conference tool. It's completely capable with any other solution.
Alex, just a short notice. I've came across the Zoom interpreting function recently. So first of all, they do have a limitation on the number of language pairs. So if it's 1, you're good. If it's 2, you're good, but it's limited. 3 or 4 is the limit, I think. Then they don't have a relay function, and interpreters just say that it's not really comfortable to work in it. So we've developed, and I guess, and other RSI platforms develop their interpreters interface, like in close cooperation with interpreters, minding the peculiarities of the profession. And Zoom is still not there. Of course, it's going to be developing and upgrading. I've also heard Hangouts is developing a similar functionality, but it's an arguable question of whether it's comfortable or not for the interpreters themselves. Sorry.
Yeah, and for those who are listening to us right now, depending on what setup of the online event or meeting you're doing, you may choose between 2 options. Speakers would be a preferred choice for simultaneous interpreting when you have something going on at the same time, and the interpreter essentially listens and translators in real time on the fly. In some events, it makes sense to actually have a consecutive interpreter where a person joins, speaks for a few moments, pauses, and then interpreter translates. So for consecutive interpreting, probably any additional tool will not be a requirement. But if your event actually needs simultaneous interpreting, then this would be one of the best solutions out there. But if you need consecutive, that would be a different choice. And somebody just asked, does Speakers platform has a handover feature? Yes, it's quite easy. It's essentially mimicking exactly the way an interpreter would work in a classical booth. And Alex, Gus, if you can comment on this.
Yeah, sure. So, for example, unlike Interpretify platform, we have an option that 2 interpreters can be on air in the same channel in 1 language. Some say it's bad, some say it's good. But nevertheless, we recommend to use the hotkeys. For example, you've agreed to change to handover every 20 minutes, right? So you're doing your job and you see that 20 minutes are nearly finished. So you just send a short message, take please, pressing a hotkey to your partner, and once he or she saw the message, the reply is followed, like okay. And when you see that okay, you go off air and your colleague goes on air. And during all that time, you can actually listen to his or her interpretation. So the handover is usually pretty easy.
We have another question about the training of interpreters. And from our experience, we normally need between 1 hour and 2 hours to train an interpreter to use the platform to become confident. And usually the technical aspects take more time, essentially setting up microphones, setting up video camera, and make sure that everything works smoothly using different browsers. So it's between 1 and 2 hours would be required to train the interpreters. So it's a small, and from the client point of view, it also would take between 1 hour and 2 to get all the technical items out of the way and make sure everything will work smoothly.
And Alex, maybe you could add there as well. From your average, how long would you need to spend time with client and interpreter to make sure that everything goes well?
Well, if it's like an interpreter who already has experience with remote simultaneous interpretation, that it could take 30 minutes, and all the equipment is there. Well, half an hour to an hour usually, and that's one-to-one. And then we have, if we have like the request on a certain date, we usually also prefer to make dry runs in pairs. So to train this handover thing, to make sure that everyone understands how to use all the buttons, how to hand over, how relay works, just like a dry run, you know. So 1 hour one-to-one plus a short dry run session. That's probably enough.
Another question we got here, Alex, are you compliant with International Association of Conference Interpreters guidelines for remote simultaneous interpreting, if you're familiar with these guidelines?
I've heard of them, but you know, we're actually, I mean, not. I've heard of them, I've seen them, but you know, it's only like that. We're not the members of the association or anything.
And another question from the technical side of things, what are technical requirements for us, say network speed, computer configuration, headsets, and so forth?
Right, so on the interpreter side, it should be a USB headset or a USB microphone, for example, Blue Yeti, plus a microphone. Wired connection, minimum 5 megabits download upload speed, Wi-Fi module switched off. The tech requirement for the laptop itself is something like 4 gigabits random access memory. I can actually send it to you, Alex, and you can share the tech requirements with everybody.
And I mean, we used it on a mobile internet. It actually uses quite low bandwidth. So technically it doesn't need, 5G connection, doesn't need fast broadband speeds. It's preferably to work on network cable instead of Wi-Fi, but we've tested it on the Wi-Fi connection, and it turned out to be very, the quality of the audio and the traffic was minimal, as Alex said. So we don't see any heavy requirements for a general user using general Wi-Fi connection or network connection.
Yeah, I mean, like the app for the users uses 64 kilobits per second. So since there's 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi, it works fine. But when it comes to interpreters, we really don't like the Wi-Fi because, it's WebRTC protocol. So it doesn't have any buffering. So the lost data is lost, it's simple as that.
And another question came in, can the platform cover any language pairs? Just to maybe confirm that the platform works irrespective of language. It just at essentially a text field that could be added. So the language could be set up as European, Asian, it doesn't matter. The platform is working with any languages. It's just a console, but the choice of languages could be, of course, predefined before each event. So if the event requires certain languages, it will be just updated on the list for the audience.
It's a question, right?
Yeah, well, it's
yeah. So yeah, we can add as many languages as needed. Like the largest one we had was, I think, 8 or 9 language pairs in one conference. So everything works fine. It's just an international code of languages, and we set it up for the conference. And I also see a question: does it have any protection against the acoustic shock? You are the second person who's asking about the acoustic shock. First one was Cyril Belange from France, the conference interpreter. Look, I've never heard about the acoustic shock, and I've never faced it for 3 years working in speakers. But he said that like some remote simultaneous video remote interpreting platform have that problem. I don't know what to tell you, what to say. Never faced this problem.
I think we ran out of questions in relation to the platform, but does anyone want to ask a question about the to Theo or to Paul, our speakers, or anything that we covered before discussing the platform? We're just monitoring the chat, so if anybody wants to post any, maybe 1 or 2 final questions before we wrap up this webinar. Okay, the question just came in. People are interested to know about the cost. The cost would depend on the event. So any requests for quotations, we'll probably take them afterwards. We're not going to discuss them during the webinar. Do you facilitate interpreters working together from the same venue? That would be a technical question. Again, Alex, for you to answer.
Well, yeah, we have like tech team who monitor the session 24/7 all the day, and they're helping interpreters. They're listening the channels, and if something's wrong, they just get into the booth or send a message in WhatsApp, whatever the conference the interpreter is more confident with. So they are not left alone. You know, interpreters are always under control, under monitoring, and help is always there.
Yeah, and there is another question that we've seen people asking about the training. So normally what would happen when there is an event and particular project, training time would be included in the project management fee. So depending, you know, how many, if the client, for example, has their own interpreters that need to be trained, or if, you know, a client just needs a solution plus interpreters, then of course training would not be an issue because the interpreters would be already trained. So depending on the package, on the event, that the training would be part of the actual project, I would say. So I would like to say thank you for the speakers and the audience. We're gonna leave this slide here with the contact details. So essentially, if anybody wants to find out more, receive pricing from Pearl Group about helping you to organize your event, whether big or small, online, we would be happy to, you can contact them directly, or you can contact them through us. If you would like to receive a pricing on the remote interpreting, on the both interpreters and the platform, we are also happy to receive your inquiries. And if you want to get a personalized demo, maybe with some of your project managers, with some of your interpreting staff, we would be happy also to take those bookings. And the free demo, free sample will not be charged for. So if you're interested to actually do it for your business before you order it for your events, we would be happy to do a quick demonstration one-on-one. So guys, thank you very much.
Sorry, Alex, sorry for interrupting you. Just wanted to also add that we really, this is an introduction to the remote interpreting setup, and we will run another webinar where we will target more interpreters and how they can get prepared for remote interpreting work. And we're planning that webinar for about 10 days from today. We will contact everybody who has subscribed for this webinar, and we will give you information on the forthcoming webinar, which will be targeted at interpreters, and will cover softer issues, not only technology and apps that are available, but actually how the interpreting works and what specific issues come up when you try to do interpreting work remotely. So we'll send you an invitation for that.
So very, very efficient timing. I would say maybe we just take one last question before interpreters working in booths in the same venue, the participants being remote. Which is the preferred setup for AEC interpreters in order to guarantee the best interpreting service? So maybe this question is something that Paul or Theo, you could take. So if the interpreters are actually located in the same booth, but the interpreting is happening remote, what, from your experience, what would be the preferred setup? So we'll give Paul a chance to answer a question as well, from when there is a mix of equipment and remote.
Again, we can work with both systems. So this becomes somewhat of a hybrid event in that there's a venue, there may be participants within the venue along with some interpretation equipment. SI transmission and booths and panels for the interpreters. So with that in mind, both systems can be amalgamated together through the production studio. We can take remote interpreters in and broadcast those services out along the same channels that we would if everybody was in the same venue or everybody is remote. So a mix is no problem.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are finishing 5 minutes ahead of time, which is good. We all have some work to do in the afternoon. As we said before, we will be sharing this recording. This was the first webinar just to show you an introduction to online and remote interpreting. We will be doing kind of more technical training for interpreters and language service providers, as Svetlana mentioned, in about 10 days. And we are happy to take your inquiries and organize personalized demonstrations for anyone who is interested. We will be also collecting your feedback. So if there is any topics or areas you would like to discuss and see in future webinars, we would be happy to receive your opinions. So again, big thank you. And we will be, I guess, hearing soon from you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
TRANSLIT, complete language solutions.